Hi, everyone. I put this little presentation together to address some frequently asked questions and just to discuss some how-to guidelines for going about getting a site for your field placement courses. This is me, so if you have any need to reach me, this is the way to do it. So just to start off with some general tips, a really good place to start your field placement approach is by looking at the field placement handbook and watching the field placement information session video that are posted on our department website. I know that the handbook can seem a little bit intimidating. There's a lot of information in there, but if you just go through it little by little, it will start to make sense to you. And it answers a lot of frequently asked questions. There's a checklist in there for some step-by-step procedures and really helpful information. And the info session is just a video about how to go about um, getting a field placement and all the procedures that you need to do to secure the class. So I encourage you to start there. When you're looking at a site, think about what kind of population you might want to work with or where you want to work. Have an idea about what you're looking for, but I really encourage you to be open to going outside of your comfort zone. A lot of students have had very good experiences at sites working with populations they didn't think that they were going to like, whether it be substance use or children or eating disorders or any and all of the above. Just don't limit yourself to one very narrow idea of what you want to do with your field placement courses. Sometimes you don't always have that much of a selection of choices, so sometimes you have to go outside your comfort zone, but just trust that with the right attitude, it can all be good experience. So, when to start looking for a site? That's a common question. So the trend has been to start earlier than much earlier than maybe a few years ago. Students would have to. This sites are securing their interns earlier than ever, and they're also requiring more than one semester typically nowadays. So I recommend starting 5 or 6 months before your intended semester. 3 or 4 months is okay. You'll still find something. If you start late, 1 or 2 months before the semester starts, you're likely to have a hard time finding one. You kind of maybe get the last picks of what's out there. So I encourage you to start as early as you can. Not a year early or 2 years early. That's definitely too early. But a semester, definitely a semester before. So 5 or 6 months is a kind of the sweet spot, I think. Especially if you're looking at to work interning in a school system, like a high school or a middle school. They usually want you to intern in the for the full academic year. So start in say February-ish, February, March at least, looking for school sites. And do a little bit of research before you even contact the site. Just have a little bit of an idea about what they do, who they are, so you can explain why you're contacting them, why you contacted them in particular. And just a rule of thumb that students should know is that students are not allowed to intern between semesters, except for you can start 1 week before and every semester starts with the permission of your classroom professor for that upcoming semester. So you can't intern for the whole 4 weeks over winter break. You can't intern for the 2 or 3 week break that occurs between the spring semester and the summer semester, or after the summer semester and before the fall semester. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Probably one of the main ones being self care. Um, Being able to prioritize the fact that you're a student first and that it's important to take breaks. So the other exception is winter break. Students are allowed to intern like 1 week after the fall semester ends and 1 week before the spring semester starts. You need to take at least 2 weeks off in the middle, though. There are like those holiday weeks or the first or 2 weeks of January. You need to take those off. it can just really be helpful to talk with classmates, other faculty, just network a little bit within our program to ask other students where they've interned, what their experiences are like, what the supervisors there are like, what the population they treat is like. It's just really great to hear directly from other students what their experiences are. So I encourage you to do that. You should also know that we have the department on the department website. There's a list of sites that we already have a relationship with, and those are approved sites. But you don't have to find a site that's on that list. You can find a site on your own that's not on that list. You would just need to submit the site qualification form to vet the site and to notify me that this is a different site so that I can vet the site also, perhaps do a site visit there and talk to them to make sure it's an appropriate site for our program, that they have the minimum requirements to satisfy our criteria for field placement. Um, so, be proactive and assertive about getting your field placement sites. I encourage you not to procrastinate. That usually doesn't end well. um, but don't get discouraged either. It's very, very likely that you will reach out to a number of sites and a number of them won't even respond. It's not you, it's them. The typical breakup story, but this time it's true because the site supervisors and the directors are extremely busy and it's unrealistic for them to be able to reply to every single resume that they get or email that they get. So don't be discouraged when that happens. Simply be persistent. Just follow up with them a little bit. And after a couple of tries, if they still don't respond, then move on. Um, it's a good practice to diversify your field placement experiences, meaning you have at least three, if not four, semesters of field placement, one practicum and two required internships, and you can take a third internship as an elective if you choose. So being able to have different site experiences across those semesters. So, like I said earlier, it's becoming more common that sites require you to stay for more than one semester. Not every site does, but many do, and that's okay. You can really kind of sink your teeth into that site and really get some meaty experience there. But I just don't think it's a great idea to be there longer than 2 semesters. Um, I wouldn't forbid you of that, but it's just not great practice. The whole spirit of field placement is to get experience in the field, and one good way to do that is to diversify what sites you go to try to go to multiple sites within your program here. Um, so it's important to look ahead and plan ahead at what courses you need to take in order to qualify for field placement courses. There's a list of prerequisites. So I encourage you to map out a program of study for yourself and discuss it with your academic advisor to make sure that you'll be on target to take the field placement courses when you believe you'll be ready to. So, what's the best way to contact sites? How do you go about doing that? Well, typically, the best way to initially reach out to a site is through email. It's a good way to try to reach the director or the site supervisor that you're looking to work with. And if you can, address the email specifically to that person by name rather than to whom it may concern, if possible. In the body of the email, it should resemble a cover letter. So, not just a casual email that's 2 lines. Hi, I'm looking for a field placement. It's more information than that. And the next couple of slides, we'll talk about that further. So, you want to keep it succinct but informative. Let them know what they need to know. Let them know what you're looking for, what your requirements are, and make it professional. No typos, no texting style talking or abbreviations or anything like that. No saying, "Hey, how are you?" No, make it professional. So it's good to follow up. I recommend at least twice with the site. It's great to follow up after you send your first initial email, then following up with a phone call within about a week or so. Not to call the next day after your email because you don't want to be too houndy. Um, but if they don't respond to your, email or phone call, within another week, then send another email, or vice versa, however you choose to do it. So you follow up a couple of times, but not a million times, because that will just make you seem annoying to the person, and they might frown upon that if they come across your name in the future. So, like I said earlier, don't get discouraged if you don't hear back from sites. Be persistent to a degree, and then know when to move on. So this is just some recommended information for what should be included in your initial email, which is basically going to serve as your cover letter to the director of the agency or the internship coordinator for that site or that site supervisor, whomever you choose to initially outreach. So obviously you want to introduce yourself, put your name in there, make sure that they have your contact information, maybe below your signature. Let them know why you're contacting them. I'm seeking a field placement. I'm seeking an internship at your site. Let them know why you're outreaching them specifically. I looked at your website and I noticed that you treat adolescents, and that's what I'm looking to do, etc. Let them know the requirements of your course. So it's important for you to know what your requirements are for the course, whether it's practicum or internship, and let that site know. Many of our sites who work with us are familiar with these things, but they need to be reminded, and it's good for them to have that information right at hand, right within your email. So let them know how many hours that you're looking to do across the semester, 100 minimum for practicum and 300 minimum for internship, 50 direct hours for practicum, 150 direct hours for internship. Let them know that you need to, receive supervision, individually, weekly, and all those things. Let them know what you're looking to get out of the internship. I think it goes a long way to personalize your email a little bit, and let them know why you would like to intern there. Maybe let them know that you'll follow up with a phone call in a few days, and always, always, always say thank you. And attach your resume to your initial email, um, and make sure that it has a, professional file name, not just something that you would look for on your own computer, but something with your name and something that they can easily find it. So this is a sample cover letter. I won't read the whole thing here. You can read through it if you'd like. It basically exemplifies all of the information that I put in the previous slide, just in a little bit more detail, and just so you can see what it might look like. I will say, though, like it says on the bottom of the slide, don't copy and paste this, sample cover letter into the body of your email. It's important to personalize it to them and for yourself. And obviously, we don't want all students' emails looking the same, and that would look quite fishy. So please don't copy this email directly. Make it yours. These are just a few pointers about writing your resume. Monmouth University has a career services department that specializes in this, so I encourage you to utilize them as a resource, as well as Lisa Himmelman. She's our director of professional development in our program, and she provides this service to students, reviewing resumes, giving them some professional development guidance and such. So I encourage you to use both of those services that are available to you. But just a few tips are making sure that your resume is current. If you haven't looked at your resume for a while, reread it, make sure it's up to date, and tailor it to the specific field placement. If your last resume was for a job in a different field or even in a similar field, just tailor it to your field placement goals. If you have a LinkedIn profile, which is usually a good idea to do, just make sure that it's updated. If you have any other social media that's public, kind of make sure it's clean and up to date. I encourage you to make several printouts of your resume on quality paper, not just making photocopies of your resume, so that if you're asked to go into an interview and you're interviewed by several people at the site, you'll have several copies or printouts of your resume in original form to be able to give to those interviewers. And like I said earlier, just save the file name as something professional, something like what I put there as an example. Um, and have a professional email address that you use. You should probably email them from your school address, but just don't email them from some personal address that is a little off. Resumes, you can include your GPA. It's not essential to. Most of our students fall within a certain range in GPAs, but if you'd like to, there's no harm in doing that. Same with your expected graduation month and year, because that might give the interviewer an idea of how far along you are in the program or how close you are to graduation. And obviously, just review it so that there are zero errors at all. Give it to other people to read and reread and get feedback on. So you've sent your initial email, you've included your resume, you've followed up with a phone call, and maybe that's happened a couple of times, but finally you hear back from a site and they've invited you to interview. So the in-person interview, what should that look like? Obviously, a lot of this is self-explanatory, and you can get more information from Monmouth's Career Services. But just a few tips is obviously go in looking professional, dressing professionally. Arrive a little early, but not too early. It's good to be a little bit early so that you're very much on time, but too early can be a little bit of an annoyance. It's important to go in there with a smile. Don't underestimate the power of a smile and a firm handshake, making eye contact. Those things go a long way in just showing confidence and belief in yourself, which are important because the interviewers are going to be looking for that. If they see that you're overly nervous, that could make them worry a little bit about how you might be with clients. So, um, like I said here, to do your best to look calm but and not nervous, interested but not overeager, confident but not arrogant. All right. So if any students are very nervous about going in for an interview or even starting their practicum or their internship, just know that that is very normal. But you should also know that you do belong there. So own it. Like I said earlier, bring several originals of your resume and any other paperwork that you might want to bring, recommendation letters or anything like that. Those aren't necessary typically for looking for field placement sites. Um, and so, like I said earlier too, like research the site a little bit. At the very least, view their website, have an idea what that site does, what they offer. Prepare a few questions to ask them. It always looks good in an interview to ask appropriate and professional questions. So basically, I think of this of as having a why for why you're at that site, for being at that site and in that interview. Um, it's important to clarify with the site that they allow recordings, audio recordings. Your practicum and intern courses require that for the course. That's a requirement, it's a must, it's not negotiable. You can't substitute it by doing a mock interview with anybody. You need to have recordings for your classes. So just clarify with the site that they allow recordings. If they do not, that doesn't mean that you can't intern there. It just means that you would have to find a second site for that same semester, and they would have to allow you to do recordings. You can have multiple sites in one, internship course, and at least one of them has to have allow you to do recordings. So I just think it's important to be prepared to talk about yourself in the interview, and if there's anything wonky going on with you that they might have found on the internet, just be prepared to talk about that. So you might want to research yourself online first for any reason. And always follow up with a thank you note. Whether they make you an offer or not, that's the professional thing to do. And whether you get that internship or decide to take that internship immediately or not, you might come across that person who interviewed you in the field later on. So sending a thank you note might make you stand out. I always think handwritten, old school is the way to go. But at the very least, a formal thank you email. I thought it would be helpful to share with you some resources for locating sites to intern at. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have a list of approved sites on the department webpage. Under the field placement tab, you'll see a list of field placement sites there. You'll also see a list just below that of potential sites. That is basically a list of all of the different sites in New Jersey, not all of which are on our approved list, simply just because there's the vast amount of them. And those are sites that you can pursue and research and secure on your own, but those are ones that need to be vetted through me, approved through me, and you have to fill out that site qualification form. You can look at state and county websites. 211.org is good. Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. There's websites that I provided for you right here. It's good to go to job fairs. Career Services has a job fair every year. Our department co-sponsors a social services career fair every spring. That was just in March, prior to this pandemic. I host a site supervisor appreciation event. Unfortunately, this spring semester of 2020, it had to get postponed because of the COVID outbreak. But that's a really good thing to attend because you'll meet site supervisors there. And in the past, other students have gotten internships immediately just by networking with site supervisors at that event. Obviously, you can go to all different kinds of career types of websites and talk with your peers, your classmates, network a little bit, and you can always contact me and run things past me and other faculty as needed. So that's about it. Again, the field placement handbook and the information session video on our website are really good resources to look at for more detailed information about the field placement process, the procedures you have to go through in order to secure the site, all the paperwork that's involved, and all of that. This was just more of a kind of a softer, how do you connect with sites, how do you outreach sites, and how do you present yourself and all of that. So I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Um, and now all that's left to do is to go out there and do your best and live it like you mean it.